Hi, everyone, in this great, fantastic world. It's Plastic EP coming in from Melbourne, Australia with Andrew Soos. You're on Music Revolution. We've got a very good guest. Glad to talk to Sam Wiles, also known as Sailor Sam from Band on the Run. Which song is that one again?
It is on Band on the Run and on Helen Wheels as well. But my mom is also called Helen as well. So there's lots of connections. I was destined to do Paul.
Now, listen, you got a fantastic podcast called Paul or Nothing. Get into that and tell me where you came up with the name and where they actually find the podcast to start off with and what subjects you've covered so far in your 244 interviews.
Well, it is Paul or Nothing, the place to get all of your Paul all of the time. The title was one of the hardest things to come up with, actually. Originally, it was going to be a podcast where I do Paul McCartney, then like Paul Weller, and then like all the other famous Pauls. But if I ever do that, Paul Weller's still easily 20 years away from how slow I've been going through McCartney's oeuvre. It's been a decade now of me covering this stuff. Like I say, it's 244 episodes. Many of them, well, I think I cover a broad range of topics. You know, there's the regular things, there's album reviews and interviews with authors about their books and stuff like that. Very par for the course. But then I do like to dip into my own kind of idiosyncrasies. Like I did a whole 3 hour episode on Paul McCartney and Kanye West. I'm a huge Kanye fan, unapologetically. I know that's not this target demographic, but I'll move on. I did like a 4 hour tribute to Denny Lane when he passed. Obviously, I'm from Birmingham, UK. Denny is as well. One of my big regrets in life is that I never got to have Denny on the podcast, but I'll tell you more about that off air. Don't worry about that. But yeah, I've been working my way through his discography now for about a decade. The main gimmick of the show was originally that I wasn't the biggest McCartney fan. I wasn't an aficionado. I was a huge Beatle head. But after I'd finished my Tom Waits podcast with my friend Tom Quay, we had a very much a Lennon and McCartney split in our own right. I was in no way going to do a Beatle podcast. I thought that is far too arrogant for one man to attempt on his own. But you know, oh, my dad's got Wings Greatest and Band on the Run, and I've heard Ram and the McCartney album, so maybe I could do something with this. And for the majority of the podcast, I've been discovering these albums fresh for the first time. I've just covered Chaos and Creation in the Backyard, five-parter. Yes, well, originally a lot of the episodes were just one part, maybe an hour and a half long, and that has soon, with my confidence in research, I guess, has expanded to, Chaos and Creation parts 1 through 5. Each of those are 3 hours long and cover a different topic and are packed with information. And that is essentially what I'm trying to do now, really. I've moved into a slightly more professional, I'd like to say, version of the show, which does mean that it isn't the end when I do reach McCartney 3 and beyond, because I will want to go back to McCartney, Ram, all the way up to, say, maybe even ooh, uh, like Flowers in the Dirt, just up to that, like, and redo all of those ones to the quality that I'm doing them now, because I'm having so much fun going into every facet of Paul and his career and what he does. I mean, I haven't even touched on the classical music yet. I've still got all of that to go. Um, I've done all of his fireman stuff now. That's a fun topic to cover as well. There really isn't anything I won't be covering on the show. It's like the Beatles with the anthology, and George like, oh, we're scraping the bottom of the barrel. I will cover all of it. I'm doing an episode soon that I'm working on now, about the Wild Wonders bootleg EP, which is like one of the most famous like fake bootlegs out there, where it's a bunch of recordings that's sold as Wings and McCartney, but it's a bunch of like sent in radio like competition entries. Very interesting stuff. There's a bit of a mystery behind that. I'm looking forward to releasing that. But yeah, it's been my passion for the last 10 years. I've been having a load of fun doing it. I've met some of the most amazing people I've ever met in my life on this show. I've got a lot of good friends that, many of them podcasters themselves, many of them just regular old people. When I first got into McCartney, I felt like I was, very much on my own in that, oh God, you like Paul and silly love songs, but I put this podcast out into the world, and the world responded, and turns out there's thousands of us, and that's really fun. And I'm glad to be able to kind of foster that. Question response over. You guys can talk now. I'm done. There we are.
Samuel, I'm a bit of a self-confessed McCartney tragic as well. The sort of chap who did shell out for front row centre tickets to see him in Melbourne. Money well worthwhile. But with McCartney, I'm going to fire a few things your way. With McCartney, everywhere you turn, there's just great creativity, there's great lyrics, there's great melodies. What for you would be an accessible first album for someone just getting into McCartney? What's the one that you would give, say, your niece to listen to?
Well, the easy answer is something like Band on the Run, just because it is so easy to digest. Every song on that is part of the pop culture zeitgeist in some way or another. It's very rare that with an album you could like hum the melody of the second to last song, and the majority of people in a pub would know what you're on about. It is a very big album, and everyone enjoys it. You could totally do that. But I'd probably like to challenge them a little more, maybe. The McCartney album is a really fun intro to his world. Obviously, it's the first chronologically, so that does make sense, but it's got that very kooky, homemade feel. It might not be too challenging for people out there. It doesn't ask a lot. Maybe if you're a Beatle fan, it could be a bit jarring. You might be expecting a little bit more. So if you are a Beatle fan, I'd check out Ram. That's Paul's big, brash, lush, overproduced, Abbey Road-esque, perfect album from that era. It also spawned the Thrillington album, which is a light jazz orchestral album, which low-key is probably the album of Paul's that I listen to the most on Spotify. It is great background music. I'd go and check that out as well. I've just covered Chaos and Creation in the Backyard. That's probably his most recent, easy, best album to get into. Though I do have a soft spot for McCartney 3, and I'm glad that it did sell quite well as it did. Besides that, Flaming Pie, if you're a Brit-pop guy, if you're one of these people shelling out tickets for Oasis right now and you've never got into McCartney, put on Flaming Pie. It is a direct response to Brit-pop at the time, as detailed in a fantastic book that I just read by J.D. Moore that I can't remember, Paul in the 90s. Go check that as well. It's a direct response to Britpop and all of that, and it's a very fun album. Lots of fun songs, lots of meaningful songs. It's a very probably maybe a little too mature for some, but yeah.
Okay, I'm going to give you a guess.
I was going to say it's more about what you don't start with. Really, that's probably the best answer.
I'm going to give you a guess, right? What my favourite McCartney album is. You only got one guess. You go first, Andrew.
We're talking. It has to be solo.
Paul McCartney album with Rings, whatever. Yeah, it's Wings.
I would say Venus and Mars.
No.
Ooh, see, I was going to go with Venus and Mars because that's the best one in an Aussie accent.
No, but, I know the one that I love that stands right out. So have one guess then.
Back to the Egg?
No. Too far away. To me, Red Rose Speedway is the greatest one.
And that is a hot take.
That first song, right? What's
Big
the first?
Bed.
Yeah, see, for years and years, I've been saying Big Barn Door. That was the title.
Sleeping in the Big Barn Door.
That was the title in my head, right? And then I looked at it one day and I said, that's not the title. So the opening chords of that song just gets me every time. I just reckon it's magic. Yeah, that's right.
Plastic, we already heard that song on the album previously. The refrain from that was the tail end of the album previously.
Yes,
and then it was
on Ramon, I believe. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah,
that's brilliant. I just love that song. It's just like the greatest. From start to end, I just listen to it. It's so different. Like it's him. Yeah. But I got to say something. We did a show once, and this is good too. Now I want to talk about the Beatles for a sec. We wanted to do the greatest Beatle album of all time. Now I'm thinking, right, we've got a panel, 5, 10 people, whatever it is. This is what's going to happen. Sgt. Pepper will probably come in first, or what else could come in? Could be Abbey Road. I'm just guessing. By the end of the show, everyone voted their favorite album, and it was Rubber Soul, the US version, above everything. I couldn't believe
The
it.
US version.
Yeah,
Oh,
it was
oh.
above everything. That was the one that came out first. So when you've got a band like that, and people are fixated on one album, for example, Abbey Road or Sergeant Pepper. I mean, and someone goes for something else, that's good because that's cross section of everything when you don't exactly go for the one that you think is the greatest.
Yeah.
And also, I've got to say, with all the clues of Paul being dead, right, off Sergeant Pepper, you're familiar with all the clues, aren't you, Sam?
Yeah, I did a big three-parter on that.
Okay. I just want to ask you this, all right, if you know this one, okay, because you've done your homework on the clues. Now, you know yourself, if you get a mirror and you put it up to the drum head in the middle, what does it say? Do you know?
Oh, I know that there is a clue where you put it up to the drum head. Is it I am dead or something?
No,
just that basic?
It's
or
I he who die. That's what it says.
I he who die. Okay,
that's right.
Yeah. No, I'm
to me
I'm
that I've got to explain. And this is what people don't understand. I said this in another show. To come up with all these and orchestrate all these clues in these albums, don't think it's easy to do. It's not something you can do. Okay, it's a Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. You put a mirror and you go, I hear you die. How do you come up with that? That could be like, you need like scholars in universities to work out how you do that to make it say that. And then you got Paul's bass made out of flowers on there in front of the Sgt. Pepper thing because Paul died. I mean, how do you, how do you do that? I still don't understand how they managed to do that.
So
I don't know if you were lucky enough when you bought a copy of Chaos and Creation. The version that I had was done at the time that Dan Brown's books were really popular, the Da Vinci Code. And if you turned his name upside down, it read the same as the way.
What you mean like this?
That's exactly it. Yeah.
So and then it spells Paul McCartney. Look.
And then in the end of Sgt. Pepper, when that record goes out, on
never to see any other way, never to see
it says Turn Me On Dead Man 2, right? And then what happens is I believe there's a note that only dogs can hear. It's so high that only dogs can hear. That was the rumor that came out too.
Yeah, no, that one was proved to me when a few of my exes heard it as well. Yeah. The whole Paul is dead thing, it's a wonderful, so I think for a lot of people, if one part is true, then the whole thing is true. And if one part is false, then the whole thing is false. And in reality, things are a lot murkier and messier. And the fundamental thing that would dictate the entire framing of this is when the Beatles decided to cash in on the conspiracy. Once they became self-aware and kind of metatextual, if you will, and started to purposely put clues in, where is that transition? Because if we know that for certain, then we'd be able to say, well, everything before that was either coincidence or pareidolia, the human mind's ability to spot patterns where there may not be patterns, seeing faces in clouds, that kind of thing. It's the seeing faces in clouds of music. But then you have things like the walrus was Paul, and that's a very obvious, them going, we know, we're cool as well, we're hip. It's just a marketing gimmick at the end of the day, because also if you spin your records backwards, you mess them up and they cannot be played, so you therefore have to buy another record. I am totally in that camp.
Now I heard that what happened was, I'm just saying, the Beatles or somebody was telling them that maybe your record sales are going to fall. There was a fear of that. And that's why this rumor came about. And guess what? Everybody went out and bought these albums for not only the greatest music, but for the clues. So everyone was getting the album and going through, where's the clues, what is it? And then they started rumors from the radio stations and all that, and it just took off.
If there was a panic about sales, that could definitely be tied to Pepper specifically, though, because there was a huge gap between Revolver and Pepper coming out. They'd stopped touring. There was a worry. There was less money coming in. So maybe some truth meets fiction there. And maybe the marketing gimmick of the Paul is dead thing was to kind of guarantee that, look, hindsight is 2020. Pepper was massive, regardless of the conspiracy. It was the Summer of Love. It was the soundtrack to the Summer of Love, but they didn't know that prior. So, yeah, I'd be willing to float that idea. Yeah, that seems reasonable.
Sam, and there was in between one heck of a good double A side that came out just before as well, wasn't there?
Yeah, I think a few people bought that one as well. Yeah,
but I'm going to say, I'm the Walrus. I'm the Walrus. I'm going to say. That's the one that's got all those crazy noises at the end before its time. And I got to tell you, I was a young person at state school. We're under the UK system. It's not elementary school, it's state school. That's how we call it. Anyway, I remember being in the playground, someone had a radio, and that was the first time that I heard I'm the Walrus, and I'm not lying. This is when, like, the Monkeys were out there singing Daydream Believer, and it was normal songs on the radio. And this thing comes on the radio, and it's like the aliens were singing to you. It was that weird. There was nothing that weird.
Yeah.
Custard dripping from a dead dog's eye and things like that. Where do you get the words? And you know the story to that. Someone told John that your English teacher is analysing your lyrics to your songs.
Yes.
And then John goes, oh, yeah, is he? Well, then we'll have to come up with this one and let him analyse that. I am the Walrus. Like, if he really wants to analyse it, let's get into it now and see if he can analyse this.
I do think, though, that I Am the Walrus was one of the worst things to happen to Lennon as a writer, because he got so much credit for that. I do think it kind of stunted his writing moving forward. Like, he was so famous for nonsense lyrics that it was almost a crutch for him. So he kind of moved away from it, but then kind of relied on it and then moved away from it. It was a bit of a dichotomy moving forward. But yeah, it's an epochal song. There's before this and after that, and there's before I Am the Walrus and after I Am the Walrus. It's probably the most commercial psychedelic song ever made. It's probably one of the most impactful. It's the highlight of the film as well.
I like it better than Tomorrow Never Knows.
That's fair. Yeah, same. Yeah.
I mean, they put all this thing on Tomorrow Never Knows. This is the first one they used tape loops and it was backward sounds, and that's fair enough. But to me, I Am the Walrus is just like out of this world. The aliens are taking over the world through the airways. It was that weird. The weirdest thing you could ever hear.
Yeah, and you can't play Tomorrow Never Knows on guitar in your bedroom, which is a key thing for really falling in love with a Beatles song. Yeah. Oh, God, how many seventh chords are here?
I'd really love to know what it is that got you into McCartney. You say that you're a doctor, you've got your stethoscope and your white coat, and you're examining the body of work, which is McCartney. What are you getting from that body of work?
Oh, well, some of the body is neglected, definitely. Parts of the body are definitely flabby, like Driving Rain. They could use work. Some of it is kind of unneeded, maybe. I'm not really into the classical stuff. I am putting it off intentionally as a content creator. I don't want to do it, especially since Two Legs already had Alan Kozin, the kind of vehement opinion, authority on McCartney classical music for their series of it. So I'm not going to do that. I guess the overall body of work is spottier than even the most ardent fan would ever be willing to admit. I would never call albums stinkers, but there's definitely stronger material and weaker material, both in terms of on the album themselves and albums within the whole continuity. A lot of it depends on your tastes. McCartney does try to please everyone most of the time. Red Rose Speedway is a fantastic example of trying to please everyone at the same time. That was a single album culled from a double album's worth of tracks. Many of the live and more rocky and more experimental stuff was left off. Thus is born arguably one of the most bubblegum, cherry blossom, easy pop albums of the Wings era. That medley at the end is also iconic as well in its own way. But at the heart of it, if I put the stethoscope and I find the heart, you do have inarguably some of the greatest songs ever written, some of the greatest albums ever put together, but very much like most fandoms, whether be it Doctor Who or Warhammer 40k or whatever it is, whatever weird little thing you're into. Some of it's really good and some of it is really bad. And you're an ardent fan, you're going to be defensive and prick your ears up and be like, no, 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 no. Pipes of Peace and Wings at the Speed of Sound are actually really quite good. And Press to Play was unfairly, reviewed and stuff. And I really don't want to be like that. Part of what I try to do with Paul or Nothing is come at all of these albums with no baggage of the fandom. I'm in my early 30s, so I really haven't been there for the majority of McCartney's oeuvre and output. So I'm not there going, oh my God, it was so awful being a fan in the 80s. God, I was being bullied at school because he wasn't very cool. Broad Street was awful, blah, blah, blah. I don't care about any of that. These are just albums that are on Spotify for me as someone in 2020 something to consume as part of the barrage of content we have to consume as people these days. And so I just try to approach them individually. For the most part, the canon is correct. Ram, Chaos and Creation, Flaming Pie, Flowers in the Dirt. These are incredible albums that are, for the most part, obviously, if there's going to be, a big frozen government storage for, future information, those albums will be included there for future posterity. But there are many albums that I'd argue, coming from my own perspective, that are woefully underlooked and should be given a second chance. And it's not going to be until the awful day when there's a shuffling off the mortal coil, as it were, that they are going to get the respect they deserve. Albums like McCartney 2, Pipes of Peace, even
Back to the Egg.
Driving Rain. I'm back to the Egg. I've got a rocky relationship with that album. And then you've got all of the unreleased stuff as well. That's a huge part of the body of work. One of my favorite parts of the podcast is the Hot Hits and Cold Cuts side series. And there are two things that I like to say about Paul. Number one, he is the worst judge of his own material. You get albums like Egypt Station, where all the best tracks are B-sides. You got Off the Ground, all the best tracks are the B-sides. And then the other one is, oh God, I've lost my train of thought now. No, oh dear.
So he is his own worst judge.
Yeah, well, I'll just stick on that. He is his the own worst judge of character. And he's also far too easy to throw away albums that are considered to be not successful at the time. I mean, it's a shame we don't still have things like, Jenny Wren in the live set list. But, he did keep it up for a couple of years. The Calico Skies was, dotted in here and there. So he does try and tip his cap to reasonably successful albums, but we've never had anything from Press to Play live. We've never had anything from Tug of War other than Here Today live. Why is he not doing anything from the McCartney 3 album after Women and Wives spectacularly failed with audiences at the start of the Got Back tour?
What about Temporary Secretary? Do you remember that one?
It's the theme song of my show, Plastic. It's I remember I was doing
please, that's enough of your show. If that's your theme song, I reckon you must have put that in for a laugh. Anyway, I want to tell you songs that stand out. We're talking about greatness, okay? I'm just talking myself. Now look, My Love, every time I hear that, it's just classic. When I hear Live and Let Die, I'm just saying, James Bond theme song. I mean, how higher can you go than that? Everyone who gets one of those is the best. I'm just saying, the theme song, Band on the Run. Jet. I go in another song, Medicine Jar, right? I like that one too. I don't know who wrote that, right? Who wrote
That's
Medicine Jar?
Jimmy McCulloch one, yeah.
Yeah, that's actually a good song to start rocking. I've got to say, you got to understand, it's not easy being the Beatles and then being Paul McCartney and Wings. That's no easy step or match. And remember, with Paul McCartney and Wings, he started from the bottom. He went out to colleges and this and that and built it up slowly. And they were unbelievable live. They were the biggest selling act and concerts all over America and everywhere. I mean, you've got to take your hat off to him. He's just great for what he did. Like John Lennon was great for what he did. I mean, I don't compare the two. I love them both, like everyone does. That's just how it
It does
goes,
seem
isn't
like
it?
a lot of the psychology of Paul post Beatles seems to be like either self-imposed or it's the media imposing it. Like, who says it's difficult following the Beatles? The only problem is that it's never been done before. Like when he was doing Wings Over America, people were like, my God, Paul, you're 35 years old. How can you be doing rock and roll? It's like, he's 83 and he's still selling out. Again, hindsight is 2020, but there are some things when you look back on the story of like Beatles and McCartney, and you're like, what were these people think? Like when like albums like Ram get trashed in the papers, and you're like, what are these people hearing? I get it, early 70s, it's all message over melody, but they do know it's Paul McCartney, right? He's always melody over everything. So I don't know what they were expecting.
I know. I just want to say this now, and it's relevant. You don't understand. When the Beatles first made it, and you watch interviews, they got reporters going up to them and asking the Beatles when the bubble going to burst. And it was regular.
Yeah.
When's the bubble going to burst? You don't need that on your monkey's back. You're there making it, and they're coming down on you going, when's it all over? This is just a fad. You're not, when's the bubble going to burst? They didn't need that pressure. So they had to make this reluctant fence around themselves and say, we don't listen to that. This is us. We're doing what we're doing. I mean, that's not an easy thing when you're top of the world and they're going, when's a bubble going to burst? Or what are you going to do when this is all over? They were copping that all the time. They didn't need that either.
Yeah. I mean,
I
it's
guess
even
it's
before sorry, Carol.
Oh, I guess it's the constant scrabble for the change of the guard. And I actually was going to ask you, Sam, if you thought, given the nature of music and the nature of anything, politics even, if you think there will ever be another Paul McCartney.
Can't be. There can't be another Paul McCartney. There can't be another MASH. There can't be another Simpsons, because media is expanding and changing so much now. I mean, streaming has basically changed the game. AI is going to change the game again shortly from now. Hello from the past to our AI overlords. Uh, the idea that the top selling artist of a period is a balladeer who basically writes about how much he loves having sex with his 44-year-old wife, who most people don't find attractive in the media, is never going to happen again. That is such a unique and wholesome and wonderful thing. I'm going to make a #1 record about frogs. Get effed, media. No one's ever going to do that again. Ed Sheeran is never going to do a really fun soundtrack for a Pixar film, and it's going to actually matter. It's just going to be generic drum chords on a guitar. It's going to be nothing. There's going to be no one who is as experimental and boundary pushing. Look, he hit 40, and society decided that he is now no longer relevant. And I know I'm a Paul McCartney podcast. I'm very biased in this opinion, but pretty much all of his most interesting work is after the Beatles. His best work is in the Beatles. That's undeniable. His most interesting work, the stuff I like to talk about and explore and, cover on my podcast, I would say is in his solo era, even after
so
Wings.
let's talk about those. Open up with that, Sam.
Well, there's just a greater variety. Paul seemed to be very much held back in, people talk about George being held back in the Beatles. If we're up to Paul, every song would be, I love you, yes I do, and the Beatles wouldn't have been the Beatles. Like, I get that. But once Paul breaks away from the Beatles, you do get things like, You Gave Me the Answer on Venus and Mars. You get Mary Had a Little Lamb. I'm not saying these are good songs. They're very interesting, though. It's way more interesting than something like Eleanor Rigby to me, because it's one of the biggest stars of the time, sexiest man, most desirable man. Men want to be him, women want him. He's putting out Mary Had a Little Lamb. No one's ever going to do that again.
I love
That's
that.
so cool.
I reckon it's
so
great.
cool.
And maybe I'm amazed. That blows my mind.
Yeah, and it's the ability for him to flip like that. 1 minute he is, the most serious lover on the planet. He's got his big beard. I'm a mature man. I'm gruff. Then the next minute he's doing, responses to John Lennon on the next album. Then it's Mary Had a Little Lamb. Now I'm the underground rock god with the new wings like set up. Then he becomes like a commercial pop god with Band on the Run and Venus and Mars. Then you've got again, London Town and Back to the Egg are much weirder albums than anyone wants to give credit. McCartney 2 is the weirdest album of all time, and that's probably why it's my favorite. Half of Pipes of Peace is incredibly out there, especially on the second side of that album. He's an odd guy. People keep trying to treat him like he's this generic kind of yeah, he's like Pete Townsend. He just kind of rocks out. It's like that is not Paul at all. He's interested in odd things, classical dance music. He's going to do, I'll do a song for Linda's bicycle team, or I'll help Heather do a song for a charity.
That's
just
good.
weird stuff. Yeah,
He's
it's
down to
all over
earth
the
and he's
place.
simple. And I also got to say, hooking up with Michael Jackson, The Girl Is Mine, and putting that on Thriller. And then that episode with the Beatles songs. I mean, that's another trip, He pulls Jackson aside and wants to give him like fatherly advice of what he should invest in. And he goes, I'm going to buy your songs.
I get yours, Paul.
Yeah. And it kept on going as a joke until he bought them. I mean, I don't want to get into this stuff, right? But what I'm saying is, good luck to Paul. And the great thing is, Paul isn't dead. I squashed that rumor on my show with Leslie Cavendish, hairdresser to the Beatles. And I asked him, you do Paul's hair? Has he changed? Is he the same? Is he alive or dead? He goes, he's alive. And he goes, when Paul's hair falls a certain way, because it's parted in a different way, that's Paul. You can't change it. Everyone's got hair that falls in different ways. And Leslie described that. And also, people should go out and get Leslie's book, right? The Cutting Edge. It's a fantastic book. Seriously. Go out and buy this book. It's just great. And
as a man with a luscious head of hair,
Leslie was so good he signed that to me. How great's that?
Oh, fantastic.
And he was in Magical Mystery Tour. You know the fish shop? When the Beatles went to the fish shop, he's in the front row with the Beatles ordering fish and chips. I love that.
Sam, what was the low point?
Don't try and show off free books to me, Bob. I get sent them every week, mate. I get sent them every week.
Sam, what was the low point for McCartney, the nadir of his work?
The nadir of his work? People will point to Press to Play, Give My Regards to Broad Street. I mean, the film Give My Regards to Broad Street probably might be the nadir of his work, his entire oeuvre. Some people might not like his paintings. I don't know. There are a couple of poor songs on albums here and there. I really don't think the nadir is anything like the nadir of another artist. I think even Paul's worst songs are still pretty darn good. There's a lot of stuff that is unreleased that you can tell why it's unreleased, and you're glad why he sidestepped that. I mean, unfortunately, the commercial released version of Red Rose Speedway is actually one of my least favorite albums. I much prefer the double album in terms of content. On Spotify, I do have my own version of Red Rose, the single album, that I think it would have been better. Although, ever since the White Album, every Beatles fan has basically tried to rework every single album that all of them have put out, especially once they start releasing B-sides and stuff. It sounds really corporate and lame of me to say I really don't think there is a nadir. It sounds like I've been bought off there, but that's how I feel.
This is amazing. And what I'm saying is, with your podcast, I'm just saying, you've known a lot about McCartney, but what have you sort of discovered through your podcast, things that you don't know, or most of the people don't know, that's come out of your podcast?
Every episode, man. Every episode. I mean, I say it, I have a very loose script that I read from every episode, but I can't help but mention, I did not know this going in. This is really cool. It's quite hard to bring up a single example now, but literally every single album that Paul puts out, there is something different and unique. And, oh, that's cool. I didn't know that was connected to that or this and that. I mean, I didn't know going into Chaos and Creation that basically all of the songs that will appear on Memory Almost Full were presented to producer Nigel Godrich. He basically turned them all down. And then Paul was like, all right, well, we won't do them. I'll come back with you later, but there's going to be a bit of a gap. And in that gap, Paul recorded all of those songs that had been rejected with David Kahn, a different producer. A great bit of humor on Paul's part there. But then there's just lots of little things like I found out what a duduk was that's used on one of the tracks. I found out about the work of Jason Folks, who's the guitarist on Chaos and Creation in the Backyard. He did two solo albums that are really good. I managed to find out about Jellyfish, who do a cover of Jet, which he was part of. So every single topic has this spider web of sprawling subtopics. And most of what I do in terms of editing an episode is just trying to rein that in and just try not to go on as many digressions as possible. Yeah, there really is no answer there. There's no one single factoid that I can
I got to say something. Everybody doesn't know everything. All right, I'll give you the perfect example, right? Junior's Farm.
Mm-hmm.
He's done a song about Junior's Farm. Great song, like Sally G. But Junior's Farm, then I found out that that's the farm that they stayed on when they were rehearsing in the US. When they went there, they went to Putman's farm or whatever, and they were there, and that's where Junior's Farm was. It's an actual place. Because he was called Junior. I didn't know that.
I've had the guy on my show. His name's Dan Ely.
Yeah, he's the best. He's a friend of ours.
Yeah.
It's because of him that I found out who Junior's Farm is.
Yeah. I've had him on the show before.
He's great.
His story of kind of charming his way into hanging out with Wings for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, that's great.
That could be a movie in itself. That totally could be a movie.
Well, I'll tell you something that could be a great movie, a rock and roll movie, right? It's got nothing to do with the Beatles, but in a way it has. Okay. In the 60s, there's a band called The Circle, and they were supporting the Beatles, right? They were an opening act of the Beatles.
Right.
And The Circle was signed up by Brian Epstein. Right. He's the one they wanted to sign, the only American band. And anyway, 4 students dress up as The Circle, get in a limo and go to the stadium. And they arrive in the stadium dressed as The Circle with, turtlenecks, black, and they come out and they go there and people are looking at them. And then the band turns up The Circle, and I think they came by bus. They didn't come by limo. And then they met up, and one of the guys goes to Don Denneman, right, the lead singer, he goes, I'm you. I'm you, right? Now, that's a story and a half. Instead of him getting in trouble, the police let him sit down in the dugout and watch the show. And then said, do you want to lift back to where you were staying? Because I weren't staying at the hotel. I mean, that's a story and a half, a real story and a half.
Didn't Kiss do the exact same script and call it Detroit Rock City?
I don't know.
Sounds pretty similar to that. Sam, I don't know if you had a chance to listen to the remix album, the reimagined version of McCartney 3. I actually thought it had a lot going on. I quite enjoyed it.
It very much like Thrillington to Ram. It is very much the same. It's the album that I listen to more often. Apart from like Dominic Fike's version of Kiss of Venus, which I find a little grated with the
I'm with you there.
But a lot, like you've got stuff like Khruangbin, St. Vincent, like incredible acts on that record. The Beck version of Find My Way is fantastic as well. It was part of that great McCartney 3 video series that was dominating YouTube at the time. That was really fun as well. Obviously, Dominic
and Idris Elba as well. I think his remix is fantastic.
Oh, too. Don't talk to me about that, because I remember. Pepperidge Farm remembers when that song was the physical exclusive for that album. It was advertised as a physical exclusive. It would not be on Spotify, and within what felt like 4 seconds, it was then immediately uploaded to like Spotify. I was going to buy it anyway. You didn't need to lie to me, MPL. Come on. But yeah, incredible album. I really love that one. I definitely
And with
stick
that
that
in
one.
mind, we're still awaiting the new McCartney album, which we understand should be in the next 12 months. What are we expecting?
We've been expecting it for the last 12 months for like 3 years now. I feel like every
We
time
have,
someone
we
said,
have,
yeah, I
yeah.
mean, we still haven't heard anything about this It's a Wonderful Life play that maybe COVID
The
killed.
West
We
Side
don't know.
Story.
What? Paul's doing West Side Story. Uh,
Mm, mm.
I haven't even heard about that. We'll talk about that in a moment. Um, the other thing we do know that's happening is that Up in the Clouds is finally getting a cinematic release date. I think a trailer's been dropped as well. Paul's little story about Wirral the squirrel getting swept up in his hot air balloon. Apparently, that might have some original McCartney compositions in it, maybe not vocal stuff. Personally, I'm hoping that a lot of the unused material from the Rupert the Bear soundtrack, there is a full version of the Rupert the Bear album on YouTube. It is that is my jam. That is, it is so corny and silly. It's like, so Rupert the Bear was walking down the road. Rupert. It's so silly, and I'm so glad that it still exists. And bootleggers at that time had the access that they had to McCartney's catalog. I mean, how many bootlegs must exist purely on Paul McCartney's phone right now that would just expand the Momax Hidden Tracks bootleg series for another 10 releases.
And Sam, can I
Yeah.
bring up the thing which we dare not speak about, the condition of his voice?
He sounds better than the last couple of tours. The Got Back tour is definitely better than the last couple. I feel like I was in a Goldilocks zone when I saw him in like 2018, I think. At the end of the Out There tour in London, where fucking Ringo came out and Ronnie Wood, and he did Wonderful Christmas Time. I feel like I got everything I want from the McCartney live experience in one show there, and I really am grateful for that. And people were like, "Oh, Sam, are you going to this show, going to that show?" And I've always been like, "No, I've kind of done it now. I'm very happy with it." The only act I've seen twice is Stevie Wonder, and that's because people have bought me tickets both times. I think his voice sounds fine, especially in the studio. As long as he's got that studio control, I'm happy for him to put out another 3 or 4 albums. I really am. Live, maybe we are coming to the point where we might start changing the key for some of these songs. I know, like, sometimes when he does Maybe I'm Amazed, he'll go, and like sometimes you're like, but sometimes you're like, go on, Paul, go on, you try and hit that note. And it does fill you with a kind of excitement just to see if he will hit that note. And or like, with Hey Jude, better, what? Like if he can still hit that. And sometimes he does, and sometimes he doesn't. And you know what?
Okay, there's a new McCartney book. You know about Wings, don't you? That book.
Yeah, I've seen that cover. It's one that I've not been sent for free yet. I need to contact the publisher properly.
Hey, Paul, if you're watching this, just send a couple of books our way. Can you do that? Because I think that's going to be a fantastic book. Well, people can buy it there. I don't know when the release date is, or is it already out?
If it's available there, it must be out surely.
All right, Sam, I just want to say, go through everything now with your podcast. Tell them where they can hear and tell us, everybody, all your links. Go for it. It's been a fascinating show.
Thank you for having me on. This has been really fun. It's been a bit like therapy. I just get to talk about myself for 45 minutes. That's really fun. Look, folks, if you enjoy me and my kind of unique brand of humor, and you want to find out everything there is to know about Paul McCartney, Paul or nothing, all or nothing, all the Paul, all of the time, just type in anything like that into a search engine and you'll find it. I'm on Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube. There's a blog called Paul or Nothing that you can check out as well. There's a Patreon called Paul or Nothing. It's all the same thing. Maybe try Paul McCartney podcast as well. There definitely aren't any other Paul McCartney podcasts out there. If you see them, it's fake. Just stick with me. Don't worry about that. Yeah, Paul or Nothing. Just type it in. You'll find me. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all the socials. You know how to do it. You're all smart people. But yeah, thank you for letting me plug my show. This has been great.
Now, I just want to say, Plastic EP's got an announcement. Plastic EP and Vicky, right? The EPs, they're traveling to Greece next month and they're going to the UK and will be at Beatle Week in Liverpool. That's right. We want everyone to know that we will be there. If you see us, come and say hello. That should be a guest. You agree, Andrew?
I wish I could come too. I'm sure there's room in your luggage.
Thanks everyone for watching. It's been a gas.